here. Remember to pause your player in the chat room.
Yep. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, I'm standing by. What's the holdup? Oh, the hubbub, bub. It says we're live here. How come the
Yeah, I'm still showing please stand by.
yeah, why is it doing that?
YouTube squirrely tonight, obviously.
YouTube's being a pain. Can everybody hear us? If you can hear us in the chat room, give me a little signal there, a hello or something. Because we are supposed to be live, but the chat room window is not playing, so I don't get what's going on with that. I see Roger, Michelle, hear you too. Okay, good deal. We are live, you guys. This is Ghost to Ghost PM with your host, the lovely Michelle Fitzpatrick, and myself, Roger Bell. And we have Mr. Brian Kent with us tonight. He's a paranormal investigator and author. And we are going to get into some interesting conversation with Mr. Kent. And I'm going to jump back over here. Hold on. Okay. Just to get things rolling, and I do this with everybody. Now, from reading your bio, it was talking about things that went on during the 60s and 70s, and basically that's what got you involved in the paranormal. Can you give us a little rundown on some of that stuff?
Well, Dad got a new job, and he moved us into this house, which I'm obviously they got a good price on it, but it had considerable activity involved, and you know, to two little boys, my little brother and I, it was quite a trip, and it certainly opens your eyes to a lot of things you're not expecting, even my parents. So the house was built in the early 1900s. It was a well-to-do family. Of course, by the time we moved in there, it was not run down, but it was an older house. And at first I thought it was a big old mansion, and you know, to a little boy, you know, when you got stairs and big rooms and a big fireplace and everything, you think you're living high. But things started happening probably within a year that Mom started reporting things, and she was a little leery about discussing it with us until John and I started having our own experiences. And some of them were rather frightening.
Well, I mean, were you attacked by something, or?
I was never attacked. My mother was. She had what she called what felt like somebody trying to slap her and just missing her face. That she was laying in bed, and these blasts of wind kept rushing by her face, and she woke up and she sat up, and they continued, and she tried to get Dad to wake up and feel them, and he couldn't, and by that time they had stopped. But she swore up and down it felt like somebody was trying to slap her. We had primarily a lot of things were just attention grabbers. I mean, now that I'm a paranormal investigator, I can look back at it, which was the cool part. I can look back at it and possibly discover intent, but obviously whatever was in the house wanted us out. It definitely wanted us out, and I think it took delight in frightening us.
Yeah, I would think of a lot of them do. Now, is John your brother?
John, yeah, my little brother.
Okay.
No, he had the
Sorry.
same experiences, right?
What's that, Roger?
He had the same experiences as you did, right?
We both, there was a couple where we both had experiences together. There was times when they'd single us out. And some of the more frightening things is I actually witnessed a vase slide across the coffee table. John saw a shadow literally walk up the steps and advance towards his bedroom. I mean, he was screaming bloody murder that night. I saw a face, and what the best way I can describe it, Roger, is that it was mad at me. It was about 3 seconds long, long enough for me to make out features of mustache, a full, like a Wilford Brimley type mustache, real, kind of a long neck-length hair. It had thick sideburns, and it was yelling at me, but I couldn't hear a word it was saying. It was scolding me, and then it was gone. And I mean, I took off. I mean, that was in my room. It freaked me out. After that incident, Michelle and Roger, I didn't like being in the house anymore. I really didn't.
I don't blame you.
And John and I used to play Hot Wheels down the basement, one of them old houses where it's just a concrete floor.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to, you remember the old days, Roger, with the Hot Wheels, and you could run them down the track, and then they go forever if it was a nice flat.
Right,
yeah. Well, John and I used to do that down there, and this door just opened on its own, wide open, and you never saw two little boys fly up a stairway. And so, yes, all these things were obviously deliberate, and it was obviously trying to get us to move, get us to leave. It worked for me. I played outside. I spent a lot of time at friends' houses after the face.
I would imagine.
So, but the best part about it is the house on Lincoln Street. It took me almost 40 some years, but it was the strangest thing. We were helping the Nebraska State Patrol with a case where a woman has been missing for 8-9 years now. And we were in Beatrice. That was the town it was in. And we came back, and I thought, well, let's go see what the old house looks like. And the front door was open, the lights were on, so I thought, I'm going to take a chance. And lo and behold, this is a little fateful. One of my old classmates from elementary school lived in the house. So we struck up a conversation, and I asked her, anything weird? And she goes, why would you ask that? And I said, just curious, just wanted to know if anything odd. And she goes, just the other day, something threw a picture down the stairway.
Mm.
So guess what? We got to investigate our childhood home, and not every paranormal investigator can say that.
Right.
The reason why you are a paranormal investigator, you get to actually go back and see if your childhood imagination wasn't in play, or if there was reasonable explanations or rational. And that's why, Michelle, we are that way with the team, because we treat this no different than we treated that night.
Right.
I wanted to know if I was nuts or just, dreaming things up, or if there's something in the house. And you guys, the team told me it's the most evidence we've ever seen. And it was because John made the comment when we walked in the night of the investigation. John made the comment, you're not going to, do you remember us? Because we're not so little anymore. And I think that just kicked it up. It was unbelievable, the stuff that was being said. And
wow.
The shadow we captured, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
Brandon,
So this was, oh, sorry. So this was obviously before.
Saying that he can't hear anything or I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michelle, but he's saying he
Go
can't
for it.
hear anything. And I'm just wondering if anybody else in the chat's having a problem with hearing what we're saying here.
I clicked on the video button and it says it was playing, but I don't know. Maybe this will just be an audio one.
I mean, it says we're live. I don't know why they wouldn't be hearing us.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was curious. He was talking about going back to the house and stuff kicking up. Now, obviously, this was before you wrote the book. The
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have written the book, Michelle, if we wouldn't have gotten conclusive evidence, and it was more than conclusive. I mean, the lady actually moved out 2 months later, my ex-classmate.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah. How'd that make you feel, knowing that everything you had seen as a kid was pretty much validated?
well, I know one thing, my mother was extremely relieved. The stuff that happened, you know, this is back in the 60s, you know, back when the mother usually stayed at home. Dad would go to work and mom would stay. So she was in the house probably what, 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And so she caught a lot of the blunt of the blunt of the blow from what was ever in the house. Most of the wrath was put on her. She was locked out of the house numerous times, and in her nightgown, like she'd go out to get milk. Remember the old days when you used to get milk in that little wooden box outside your, she'd go out there, and no sooner she'd get, you know, just past the threshold, the door slammed shut, and then she'd go, what the hell? And you know, there were just so many things. And what was funny is the day that we actually moved out of the house, Mom was following the movers carrying our kitchen table, and one of the legs snapped off and hit the wall. And the mover turned around to Mom and he goes, I didn't do that, Mrs. Kent. And Mom says, I know, I saw the whole thing. She goes, something wants us out of here. It was bizarre.
Interesting. Huh.
Now, was that the only experience that y'all had in the basement, or did you actually have something when you went back?
When we went back, absolutely nothing happened in the basement. As a matter of fact, I think the best piece of evidence, Roger, was I think the most telling. We weren't even ready to go yet. We weren't even green yet. We were still throwing up a few more cameras and a trap camera up in my bedroom when we had one of the voice recorders running in the living room. And what we captured was old man's house, this is not your home. The entire sentence.
Huh.
So, I mean, it was rather telling.
When you get a complete sentence like that, you know, on an EVP, that's awesome, because that's very rare.
It's very, very rare. We've only captured, I would say, at least 4 sentences in over 300 cases.
I mean, I've caught like 3 or 4 myself in all of the investigations I've ever been on, and actually I only ever caught one disembodied voice.
Wow.
No, I haven't. I've caught quite a few sentences, direct answers. I guess you could call them sentences. Like we were in a kitchen at the Morrison Masonic Lodge in E-Town, and one of my co-investigators said, what do you cook up here? We call it clear as day. We don't cook. And we, of course, we didn't know. We were getting it at the time. So she goes, are y'all cooking chicken? Do you cook chicken up here? And he goes, once again, we don't cook. I mean, very like,
wow.
So something like that was kind of normal for our team to catch. So
have either of you ever caught an EVP and had no clue what the hell they were talking about?
Oh yeah.
We were at the Pony Express station in Marysville, Kansas, and you hear me in the distance going, I'm going to go use the restroom. And right after I say that, you hear a man say, who is Mr. Luck? And we spent the next month looking through all the Pony Express drivers, see if there was a Luck or a Lucky or whatever. and we couldn't find anything. And it's the most bizarre question I have ever heard.
It's funny because you can ask a certain question and you'll get an EVP that has absolutely nothing to do with what you were asking about.
Right, right.
You know, you're like, well,
Go ahead.
why did they say that? Or what, you know, I don't get it.
Yeah. Or think you're not understanding and come to find out it's in another language. Those are good.
Yep. We caught somebody speaking, I think, Spanish or Portuguese in the attic of the Temple Theater in Lincoln. It was pretty bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So you do have a total of 3 books now?
I'm actually book number 5's coming out in hopefully next month. I'm hoping.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Excellent.
I've written 3 that are, you know, based on, they're factual. I mean, The House on Lincoln Street was about my childhood home and the investigation. Exploring Conscious Energy is the team's outtake on how to do a logical and rational paranormal investigation of someone's home. You know, you know as well as I do, sis, that residentials are way different than going over to Villisca or Waverly or whatever else. I mean, you're actually there to help somebody, not make up things or whatever. I'm not saying people do, but and then the Paracon investigations, 2007 to 2014, is 31 of our favorite cases, and I documented that for people who like to follow the team and what we do. And then my editor, Lisa Cavanda, she wanted me to give a shot to fiction. And so I thought, well, how about if I write the fiction based on our cases, using our cases? I mean, there's plenty of material to go with, but then have lessons learned during that. So that's how I've been writing these 2 fictionals. The first one's The Reveal. This next one's going to be called The Blessing. And then I'll probably start working on number 3, which will be the final of the 3 on that series, probably later in the year. I wanted to take a break from writing. I spent almost all of last year on The Blessing. So
Right. Yeah, I remember you asking questions a little bit about that. That was cool.
yeah.
I would love to write. I just don't have the patience. So I totally envy people who write. So for people who don't know, Paracon, it sounds almost like a paranormal event, but it's
a convention. Yeah. I know.
But it's the name of your team, correct?
Well, what we the reason we came up with the name is for paranormal reconnaissance.
Ah, okay.
That's what it says on our shirts, anyway, paranormal reconnaissance and exploration. And so we thought, well, just shorten it up and make it Paracon. And this was way before I heard about all these paranormal conventions and you know, I mean, I heard of Comic-Con, but I never thought there was an actual Paracon. So, but we're stuck with it now. So,
yeah.
So
That's pretty.
let me ask you, what is your take on the whole Paracon stuff, the conventions,
The
and
actual
all the
conventions?
whole 9 yards?
okay, well, Michelle knows me all too well. I take this stuff very seriously. So as long as it doesn't get so exaggerated and taken out of context. I mean, we already battle in Hollywood. There's people that won't call you because they watch Paranormal Activity movies.
Exactly.
And the first thing they think, oh, Brian's going to come in here. He's going to stir things up. And all of a sudden, I'm going to be dragged down the basement stairs. You know how, I mean, that's what, and that's what a lot of people think. I mean, we have literally had people where the wife will set up the investigation. We'll get there. We'll get set up. Mr. comes home. I ain't going to do this. I don't want nothing to do with this. And this is something we battle constantly, where one member of the family wants it, the other one doesn't.
Exactly. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, you just got to go with the flow.
Very true. Very true.
You know, and you feel really awkward too, you know, like when the other half comes in and says, well, what are they doing here? I didn't ask for this.
Right.
And they're so skeptical that they just, you know, explain it away.
Well, but I want them. But the thing is, Roger and Michelle, I want them to be skeptical. I want them to be rational and logical before it gets to a point where I got to haul in $3,000 worth of equipment to, you know, look into things further. And to be quite honest, when we go into a house, we pretty much do a home inspection and a sweep to see if we can explain a lot of the stuff. And if we can, then we've done our job, right? We've explained that they want answers. Like I said, we're not trying to prove paranormal. We're trying to give them answers. That's the difference between the residential and like the going to the paranormal tourist traps. You know what I'm saying? Michelle, do you hear me?
Yeah, I was reading chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's awesome.
But, you know, and if we, you know, if I can do my job in an hour as opposed to 6 hours, then, you know, that's been a bonus for us too.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, if you can disprove that there's a haunting there and ease their mind and everything like that, you've done a good job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go away happy, you go away happy, everybody's happy.
Well, again, it's all back to human nature. Not only are you dealing with human beings that live in a house that have to deal with whatever's going on, whether it's paranormal or not,
right?
And you also have to deal with the human nature, the human side of the entity. What is troubling you? Why are you? I mean, this is where when I start turning things into a paranormal investigation. This is what that's my goal, to discover intent, because I do believe that if we can get them to talk, we can get them to communicate in some way or another, either move something that you want attention drawn to, or whatever. Give us a clue what you want to say, and I think that intent would maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that intent is what will possibly get us to a resolution, you know, between the cohabitants.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and you're going to have some people, and I have to say this because I've dealt with this a time or two. You can show them that there's nothing haunted in their house. But since they watch Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, they're going to swear up and down that, yeah, it's in there because I heard that on Ghost Adventures. It was the same thing. I know what it is.
yeah.
You know, so you have to deal with, I mean, there's one I could tell you about, and you'd laugh because it was hilarious. But you have to learn to deal with the fact that they're not always going to agree with your outcome.
Yeah. I agree.
You know,
there's people that will argue with you when you find a logical explanation. I mean, Michelle, I'm sure you've gone through this too, where you describe, you know, you give them the exact reason why something happened, and they still want to think it's a haunting.
Oh yeah. I actually, our team has pretty much stopped doing residential, so I'm glad to hear there are still people out there doing it. Because and I'll get to that later. But you said something that struck me with the intent of the entity.
Correct.
Do you believe that they're here because they want to be, or not? I guess.
Oh, do you think that they're here like trapped? Is that where you're going with this?
Well, you say their intent, like what it, the way I took it was their
Well,
intent.
I think every
why
haunting
they
is.
want attention.
I think every haunting happens for a reason.
No, baby.
Okay.
I mean, absolutely. And it's whether it's to get you out of their house or off their property or whatever, or
Okay.
they're trying to communicate with somebody in the house. And and then we have to also go, is the house haunted? Is the person haunted? So there's a lot of involved in the interview alone.
Mm.
Sometimes the interviews can get personal.
Well, the situation sometimes, and I've run into this, I think, at least once that I can remember. If there's an entity in a house and they're trying to get your attention and you're ignoring them or you're not giving them that attention, that's when the activity will start picking up because they get mad just like any other human being would.
That's exactly. Therefore, we go back to human nature, Roger.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I mean, this whenever I hear this classic remark, well, you're just going to stir things up. Well, you're the one that told me that you have something weird going on in your house, and you want me to come in and help you. You're asking me for my neutral opinion, and I already told you I'm going to come in logically and rationally first. That way, I can either check that off of my list, or I have to keep it in mind. And then when they go with the, well, you're just going to stir things up or you're going to make things worse. No, because you claim that if you ignore it, it'll just go away. It'll give up. Not necessarily true. I look at them more like children, the kind that tug on mom's pants and go, Mom, Mom, Mom. And you keep ignoring it. And what happens? Increases it until they're throwing a major temper tantrum.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you have to look at it from the ghost side. Here you are, you can't smell, you can't touch to a degree. Nobody's seen you, hardly anybody can hear you. I don't know what it's like on the other side. Maybe they have other people to chat with, but it's got to be frustrating for them. And nobody ever stops to think about that. What if grandma is in the house and is trying to tell you something? My favorite case was right here in Lincoln. Lady had been grieving and still is grieving her father's passing. And it was 8 years when she had us come in. And Michelle, she was still crying about this the night we showed up.
Yeah.
We put her in. We let her do a one-on-one, which is what we do is we put her in front of a camera. We put the voice recorder right in front of her, and then we all leave the house and let her ask as many personal questions as what. And she asked, "Dad, why do you have to be so damn stubborn?" And his comment, and I'm pretty sure it was him, said, "I'm sorry." And I mean, it was the lady still has the recording to this day and listens to it all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I can't
emotion, human nature, intent. Why are you here? What do you want? I'm listening. I've got all, and that's another thing. We make sure that the entity knows what the equipment's for. This is so we know you're in the room. All you have to do is touch it. This here can pick up your voice. And if you think about it, you might be talking to a man that has no clue, or a woman that has no clue of what a voice recorder is, or a camera. How long have they been there? They 200 years old, been hanging out there. You know what they say, Michelle? On the other side, time doesn't matter.
Right.
So,
but somehow they make it work if they don't know what it is. I don't know. For me, I think they transcend some sort of knowledge. Because even if you say, like, we would do that like many years ago too. We would say, see this little red light? Come near it. Come talk to it. You know, speak into it. We'll be able to hear you that way. Da 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 da. But even when we don't, we still get responses. You know, if we're in a cemetery that dates back to the 1400s.
Right.
I think they kind of like in the movie Ghost. He figures it out how to manipulate the energy. They'll figure out how to manipulate the energy in order to. Whether or not they come to that red light, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that.
I agree, and I think that's the best thing. And you know what? We take it a step further. If we actually do capture something, we'll put it on the computer. We'll crank it up so it's as loud as we can get it. And then not only do we let the client hear it at that time, we let the entity, and we say, look, this is what you sound like to us. You know, you need to understand we can hear you if you go along with the program. Following me?
That's fascinating. I don't think I've ever done that. That's pretty cool.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, Michelle, it's all back to intent, and you got to talk to them like they're just sitting there. You're like, well, you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not at them, to them. Yeah.
Well, I got a friend, Frank Lee, who was talking about being on an investigation, and they were sitting out in the backyard, like around the fire pit. And he said they were sitting out there drinking a cold beer, talking. And they invited them to come and join them. And he said, you wouldn't believe the EVPs they got.
I'll bet. Where were they at, Roger?
I don't remember exactly where he said they were. Somewhere in Alabama, I think, though. Of course, he's from Alabama, but somewhere around where he lives.
It wasn't like an old battleground, was it? From the Civil War? Maybe.
I don't know. They were investigating the house, but they were taking a break, and they were all sitting around the fire pit.
I'll be damned.
And he said that he invited them to come and join them and talk with them and everything. And he said they got a lot of good EVPs, just sitting out there talking around the campfire or the fire pit.
Right.
And I think it is, and we did have an instance at a place we were at not too long ago, where we were in a Civil War manor house, and we were in one of the rooms, and I asked them if the entity in there, if this was their room, and we got a response, and I said, do you like us coming in here to talk to you? And they definitely said, yeah, like they were lonely. They wanted to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
That's
another aspect from their side. Are they just lonely? Or
are they telling the truth? I mean, what do you think about that?
The what, Michelle?
Well, say like, I don't know. I'm personally a big believer that some of the things over there aren't human and do not have our best intent or our best interest at heart. So maybe they do that to bait us in order to use us in some way, by pretending to be like, it's just another side of the coin there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
On the demonic side of things?
Demonic.
I'm leaving my mind open to anything on that end, but to be quite honest, sis, I think the assholes in life are assholes in death.
Thank you.
And
yeah, Roger said that.
If they can take advantage of a situation, and if they like you just said, if they finally figure out how to do things like moving objects, whatnot, then they could be a holy terror. As far as demonic, as far as demonic goes, I suppose there could be some bad things on that other side.
Well, I don't use the word demonic. Demonic to me just kind of stands for something.
Well, to me, it's got religious overtones.
Yeah.
And I have to stay very neutral, in my opinion. Very neutral.
Right.
So, right. I mean, somebody asked me to bless their house or whatever. I mean, and that's another conversation. I'll take holy water around with the white sage and, you know, do the whole thing. But they have to believe. Therefore, we're going back to the intent of the living. Their beliefs have to be strong enough to believe that holy water is going to protect them.
Or that sage is going to actually clear their house.
Because some atheist and this has happened, some atheist will give me, hey, Brian, come over here and throw some holy water around, would you? You know, thinking that, you know, no, well, okay, I'll do that. But if you don't believe it's going to work, then
it ain't going to work.
It ain't going to work. It might as well just be tap water.
Exactly.
Well, not only that, but I mean, you know, just for instance, Christianity is only a couple thousand years old. So if the person that passed away doesn't believe in the holy water also, then in my opinion, it's not going to work. That's why you've got to cover all the bases. Would you agree with that?
Correct. I would agree.
Yeah.
And also, I think that if you're doing a cleansing, and this is an opinion, so, you know, everybody chirp in, but if you're doing a cleansing and you're doing a cleansing in a Christian house, then you would use holy water. But if you're doing a cleansing where it's like Native American in background, you would do what a shaman would do with the sage and the all that.
Correct.
So whichever side they're on, they have to have faith in their shamanism or religion or what have you, or it's not going to work.
The way I see it, their intent is just as powerful. Whenever we finish, I try to give them this little pep talk. Your energy is stronger than theirs in this physical existence. Theirs is probably stronger on their side of the wall. But as far as this existence, you're in charge. And
Right.
you need to take charge. And when my mother used to talk to the thing down there in Lincoln Street all the time, she had one of them old gas lamps, you know, where you put the oil in it, you know, it looks like something from the 20s or 10,
Right. My grandmother
100 years ago, and she literally watched this thing just shake and trying to be knocked off the shelf. And my mother literally said, "Knock it off. That's enough. Don't you do that." And it stopped. This was after, you know, dealing with it already about 7-8 years. She was getting mad at it.
She was done. Yeah. I know the feeling.
It's like the saying, though, of what you put out is what you get back. If you put out faith in what, you know, in what you're trying to accomplish, if you put out a positive form of energy towards that, then you're going to get somewhere. If you put out a negative form, you're not going to get anywhere.
Correct. Some people believe in the power of prayer, and it works for them.
Yeah.
Because of their intent behind the prayer.
Exactly. The energy they're putting into it.
Correct. So,
well, that's kind of like a lot of people will believe in, say, that sage or say a stone, a hematite or a selenite.
Right.
Like I even do. I put selenite over all entryways because it's supposed to keep negativity out. You know, a lot of the black stones will keep negativity out. And I've tried to tell people, you know, or my opinion of it anyways, is yes, everything has an energy frequency. Everything has a vibrational frequency, but it is our belief that we put into that item that makes that item work.
Yes.
You could throw that sage into the floor and it's not going to do anything. Throw the black hematite into the floor, it's not going to do anything. You have to physically put that energy in it, you know, or it's useless. The holy water is useless.
correct.
Without the person. So yes, I agree with you 100%, Brian, about we are in charge of this realm. We are in charge of this realm. Absolutely.
And the thing says that you're hitting on all cylinders there. But what the one thing that you know, when we're dealing with if somebody wants to go with the Wiccan thing,
Mm-hmm.
they have to be in touch with the earth. They have to be in touch with this physical existence and believe like you do with your black stones and with your white sage, and we know when we do this. So when we do a house blessing and these clients are kind of up in the air, you know, and they're giving you the funny looks when you're, you know, fanning the white sage around the closets and every little nook and cranny.
Right.
You know, you know, you got to sit back and you got to go, okay, well, if you're just going to look at this and laugh, I'm wasting my whole hour here doing this for you. I really am.
I don't think so, because there is a power of what that person puts into that sage, and a power to the chemistry of the herb that still does something.
Yeah, but Sweet Pea, it's one thing for me to believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
They need to believe in it.
True.
And some
Well,
of these that are giving you the funny look, you know, that's what I mean.
I was talking about the entity on the other side believing in it, because if they believe in it, then they're going to run whether or not I don't know.
Well, you'd laugh your butt off when you'd watch me go bless the house, because I sound like a football coach. You're not wanted here. I mean, I'm full voice. You know,
yeah.
Vince Lombardi, getting rid of unwanted cohabitants, you know, and it's so my energy is definitely behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people call and say, well, it's been real quiet for the last month. Maybe you did get rid of it, you know, but there's some houses. And again, I go back to those that give me that little smirk or, okay, Brian, what's this all about? This looks like some circus sideshow. And I'm like going, well, I can't help you unless you need to help me help you. You need to believe in what's going on here. He's going to get rid of your problem. So you know, I'm not an exterminator, Michelle.
If you ask me to come in and bless your house, you got to believe that my house blessing is going to help you. If not, you're wasting my time and yours.
Absolutely. They need to be on board and on the team.
Exactly.
Well, how does your team handle residual if you find out that it's or does your team deal with residual at all?
Yeah, I mean, I love residual because it's not a haunting. It's kind of like sitting and watching a movie.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm intrigued by the residuals, and if we do determine that, or if we can determine it, and that's not an easy thing to do, but if we can determine it, then we just tell the client, hey, this is just like, you know, the old cliche explanation for it is it's like a VHS just keeps getting rewound and played over and over and over again. And there's nothing to be worried about. They're not going to hurt you. They don't even know you are here. Right. They're living their life as they know it, their existence as they know it. You don't even exist in their eyes. And, you know, most clients kind of dig that part.
It's just a thing trapped in time. It's just a replay, you know?
Right. Right.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Have you noticed that it seems like in a lot of residual haunting cases that after you do research on the property or the land or whatever, that usually something extremely traumatic has happened? And it's almost as if the trauma or the moment when that person was either murdered or committed suicide or whatever the trauma may be seems to like punch through some sort of the veil per se and has left a stamp.
I would rather go with the concept that the veil has already been, it's already thin in that area. It might have to do with landlines or whatever else. You know, we're talking frequencies again.
Okay.
But I seriously think that it doesn't have to be, because we've had people actually had grandma still sitting in the kitchen cooking, and then she's gone, but you know, and then, you know, these people are usually not really afraid, but they'd like to see if grandma will interact with the living now. But all it is it's just grandma probably back 50, 60 years ago, still in the kitchen making supper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. It still boggles me to this day why a spirit would just repeat the same sequence over and over and over. And
Well, there again, we go back to time doesn't mean anything over there.
well, that's true. Unfortunately, the third dimension is bound by time, and I can't wait to move on. I was just having a conversation with somebody about that. I think it was 2 days ago, how we're bound by time. 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, time for this, time for that. What if we didn't have any of that,
Well,
How far would we be?
if we didn't have to deal with time, it makes me wonder how many people would be actually motivated. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a interesting.
So therefore, we go back to the intent of the entities in a house. If time doesn't matter and they can sit there and mess with your life as long as they want, you got to think, well, then why are some of these increasing the activity as a temper tantrum? What's your big hurry if time doesn't matter? So that has always counteracted my theories on intent. But
yeah, and I've also heard from other paranormal teams that if they don't have a concept of time, then they shouldn't know what day it is or what the date is.
Yeah,
et cetera, et cetera. And I've caught it. Have you all caught answers, Tuesday or the date?
Therefore, I go back to the intent, though, Michelle, because if somebody is heading for danger, let's say a loved one's watching and knows what's coming down the road and is trying to warn somebody, then you have to think, okay, well, then time does matter, or they understand the concept of time on this side of the veil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does to me. Yes, it does. That's a great answer. Actually, I actually could absorb that, and a lot of times I can't absorb things people say.
Well,
so
I
mean,
I
like that.
I sit and think about this stuff all the time because intent is my biggest thing right now. I mean, I try to help people, and I desperately try to figure out, why is your house haunted? Why did stuff start kicking up all of a sudden? And that's the other thing. There's some people that can live in a house 7, 10, 12, 13 years. All of a sudden, something's happening. How many times have you ran into that, Michelle? I bet a few times.
Yeah, quite a few. We're right smack dab in Cherokee territory here. I'm sure you've got up there in Nebraska. You got a lot of native stuff up there too.
All the time. We've got one part of Nebraska down here in the southeast corner. 6 different tribes fought over the same turf. It's incredible. I mean, bloody. The Pawnee were the worst. They tried killing all the Oto. They went up to the Omaha, and then that's when the Omaha tribe started taking in our cavalry to give them help, because the 1 year black elk went out on a hunting party closer to Fremont, Nebraska, left all the kids and women back at the camp. That's when the Pawnee came in and started trying to kill all these kids and these women. And then we're sitting there waiting. Well, that's when black elk started getting the Europeans to come in and give them a hand. And after that, that was a good pact. It was the Omaha tribe is still in existence and thriving in Nebraska, right along the Missouri River where they camped. So it's a pretty this part of the country has got a lot of Native Americans.
Here's a good question for you. I've had some interesting things happen. That's why it entered my head. Do you believe that the temperature outside has anything to do with the amount of activity you can or cannot catch?
No.
Or record or document?
No. I've got weird stuff in cold weather. I've got weird stuff in warm weather. I believe that obviously when the atmosphere is a little bit more electric, like during a thunderstorm, that things can kick up. Obviously, that would be during warm weather. But then we've had thunder snow here, so
I already know. Same here. And it was like almost 70 today.
well, it was 50 something here. So
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I was just curious to your thoughts on that. I was chatting with, I don't know, I was in a feed or something on Facebook one day, and we were talking. Somebody had asked a question if they've caught more stuff in the winter or summer. And our team has happened to catch a whole lot more really credible evidence. Actually, our Holy Grail was in February when it was like 16 degrees out.
there you go.
And I seem to see a pattern with that. It might just be us. I don't know.
So is that the time when the veil is the thinnest? Is in that area or that?
I don't know. I didn't really have an answer for it. And then this lady come on and she said, well, the code is there, the cold, COLD. I know I'm real country. So she said the cold is their element. And it got me thinking, maybe there's something to that.
Or maybe the cold is part of the equation.
Or maybe that's what it's like on the other side, and they're used to.
They always say it's
They come
cool. I don't know. That's why I was asking the question. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But it does seem like my team has caught some of our best evidence when it's really, really cold. So I don't know.
I do know that we've experimented with barometric pressure as far as a house to try and we all use thermal cameras, but I mean, I'm trying to figure out when they make a cold spot, when they punch through, are they
good one?
Got to be affecting the barometric pressure somehow, just like a high and a low. I mean, in our weather, you following me?
I am.
Well, yeah, because here in Nebraska, they always say around here, if you don't like the weather, just wait a day, it'll change. Well, we've had days where literally it'd be 80 degrees and within a half an hour to an hour it can be 50.
Yeah.
So I wonder though, when they create a cold spot, it's like, you say, well, that's when there's an entity present because they created this cold spot.
And hot spots.
So, well, true. But if it is extremely cold on the other side where they are, when they pop up here, it's going to create a cold spot.
That's a good point.
Well, I think I have an interesting answer for that, or a logical answer for that one. But go ahead, Brian, you first.
I believe, and Roger just kind of touched on it here a minute ago, and you, or Michelle, and I were talking about residuals. I think that the veil is fluid, and it's thin in spots. It's like our ozone. There's spots where it's a little thicker than others, and I don't know if they're able to perceive it. I mean, obviously we can't see a veil thinning or not, but we see the results of a veil thinning. So, you sit there and you go, okay, so maybe they can detect where the veil is, like it's like a window that's coming by. And all of a sudden, they're going to wait in the spot that they want to make their point at, wait for the veil to come through. And this might be why some hauntings are not as, what's the word I'm looking for here? It doesn't happen on a daily basis or this or that. Maybe they have to wait for that veil to thin. So I've always thought that maybe the veil is fluid and has thinner spots than others. And this could also explain the residual effect. So
yeah. And a lot of people believe that they have to be able to have somewhere to manifest the energy in order to appear. There's a lot of thought with that too. But a lot of people, I don't know, they seemed, there's a cold spot. Well, let's just think common sense for a second. They don't have a body.
Right.
They don't have a voice box to speak when they speak. None of this stuff exists. So therefore they don't have any body heat.
Correct.
So when they punch through, they're going to be cold. To me, it makes, I don't know.
That's what I was saying. When they come through, they're cold and they create that cold area, that spot.
I mean, that would kind of explain what you're saying with it being cold over there. I mean, it's all energy, and I don't know that energy has to always be hot. I wouldn't.
Well, no, it doesn't.
Go with physics, yeah. So you know, there's no body heat there. A lot of people can't separate that. You know, when they think of a ghost or a spirit, they automatically think in human form.
Well, I mean, we've all seen the programs where the thermal will either give off an image that is black or blue. It also gives off images that are bright orange and bright yellow.
Yeah.
That pretty much tells you right there
Yeah.
that they could be both extremes.
Yes. Yes. Both extreme.
So,
Yeah. And it does seem like the more negativity that happens is when the warm spots. Have you noticed that? Especially in residential.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it might be for the fact that they're exuding more energy at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very cool. Yeah.
But, the other thing, now we're talking about energy. The other thing that that I've been kind of theorizing about, and I want to get you two's take on this, because I could talk about this stuff for hours.
I could too.
Influence on the living. I've had couples that said that since the activity started, like, he's been different. He's been more distant.
Yeah.
He's been more, and it's not a possession thing. It's not. Let's not even go there. Let's just call it influence, where he influences a mood, or that whatever it is influencing a mood, or influencing a certain behavior, or influencing somebody to do something that maybe, why did I do that? You know, how many times do people our age, Michelle, go, why did I walk down here? What was I? You know, you got to think. Was something trying to tell me something? All of a sudden I forgot. I mean, no. And does it have to do with on the farthest end of the spectrum? Could it be the mentally challenged? They say that autistic people are a little more receptive to, and it's because they're using different parts of where I think our energy is stored.
If you think about that, it's kind of like when you're a child and you're open, because nobody has contaminated your brain yet with all this
Correct.
That don't happen.
Absolutely, Roger. Absolutely. When people go through physical changes, puberty, menopause, andropause, anything, that's I think is when our veil gets kind of thinned, where we're a little more receptive to influence.
I mean, well, see, is when you have and I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but a mentally challenged person is like a child.
Yeah.
And they're still open like a child.
But they're also using different parts of their brain, Roger, which is what I think is these things are able to manipulate, and we don't know why. We don't understand it yet. You know, the three of us, we use certain parts of our brain, and we kind of stick with that formula. And, you know, when we try to be a little bit more open-minded about things, we try and, you know, reach outside of our box a little bit. You know, but both of you are very good at theorizing. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, say once there's a certain time as a child when you're growing up to where, how do I say this? Influenced by grown-ups blocks you or changes you. You're not open like you was when you're a kid.
Correct.
No. So now at this age, when we got into this thing, we had to pretty much force ourselves to be open to this stuff. We had to prove to ourselves that this stuff is real.
Well, some of us grew up with it and saw it firsthand. And then that pretty much goes, okay, well, now you've just opened up a whole new can of worms for my line of thinking, you know.
When I was
Michelle, didn't you have them when you were little, or were you a little older?
I was 9 years old when I seen my first apparition, and
there you go.
He looked just as real as you and I do. Walked right by me just like, you know, any normal person.
Well, Roger, you were the same age I was when I saw the face. What about you, Michelle?
I've always been drawn to to things that were not in the norm, we'll say. I rebelled against church. I rebelled against just about every form of, what's that word? I want to say orthodox, but that's not the word. Where you had to follow a certain line. And I think I've always had gifts. So it wasn't up until my sister passed away that I really started asking the hard questions because of, and I was screaming in the car driving down the road, and I was like, why did you leave? Why did you have to? She was 23 when she died, and she left a 2-year-old baby. And I felt a hand touch me right then and there, and boom, it was on. So it was much later in life for me, but I think I was always in touch with it from birth, if that makes sense.
Well, and thank God that you did have an experience, and it was a pleasant one. Some of us didn't get that. Some of us were thrown right into it.
Right.
And then of course, when you're a child and you have the experiences, then you see all the horror movies and the documentaries and this and that. You could take this to the extreme, and a lot of people do. And they suffer. They suffer through, if they do have activity in their house, they'll suffer through it, or they'll move. Right now, this is how important it is. I'm going to share this with you. This case hasn't gone down yet, but I want to explain to you a very touchy situation. And this is why I have to be rational and logical about this. There is a lady that has contacted the team that is ready to move out of her house. She is 60-some years old. She is in a wheelchair. She does not have the funds to buy a new house. The realtor had the, I want to say, not the common sense, but the fortitude to at least contact me first and say, Brian, you probably should go over here first before this lady makes a major life-changing decision to see if there's actually something in the house. And you know what one of her claims is? That the ghost stripped the varnish off of her door. Now, first thing I'm going to think of is, okay, well, maybe she hasn't noticed it before. I'm going to go look and check. But this is why it's important for teams that do residentials, for people that are actually thinking of serious stuff like this, to go in and be as rational and logical with that person, and to try to be a counselor through it. It's important, Michelle. It really is. It's very important. This lady is willing to give up a house she's been paying for 8 years. She's going to go get another house. She's probably going to lose money, according to the realtor on the deal. And, she's in no position to be doing that. But she's that frightened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if she's being influenced or if she's taking television programs and movies too seriously. I don't know, sweetie. I don't know. But this case kind of bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you're the one on it.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, where were we at? I'm sorry.
I think we were talking about something about, speaking of intent. Influencing. I think you were headed towards a question towards influencing. You said not possession, but influencing.
Correct.
And then we got onto the mentally challenged and went kind of that way with it.
Well, what I was going at with the influence is I think not only are we able, we already know an aura surrounds our body, primarily around our head, because that's where, and this is my opinion, I have people arguing that they think it's around the heart, but I personally think the PC sitting on our shoulders is where everything's stored, is where we're portraying most of our energy, and not only that, but our receptors to
because
energy.
our
where I'm
brains,
going.
our brains function off of electricity.
Correct. And not only is it a receiver, it's it can
know,
project. Yeah.
yeah,
And the influence, I think is there. Yeah. I mean, how many? We already know the brain is most active when we're in REM sleep. How many
right.
times have people had this weird dream that was so vivid?
Yep.
My best one was Dad came to me 20 some years after he passed, and all he did was smile, and Grandpa was standing right behind him. It was so real. I woke up in tears, literally in tears. It woke me up. So I am pretty sure that they'll do anything they have to get your attention or to get your. And to me, the dream was Dad just saying, "I'm okay and I'm right here."
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Your guards are down. You're in your beta theta waves. You know,
Yeah,
you
there
understand.
we are, back into our frequencies. Yeah.
Everything's frequency.
Well, the subconscious is a very powerful tool.
Absolutely.
And when you go into that REM sleep, you go into that subconscious area, and lots of things can come out of there. Let me tell you.
Well, here's something that'll kind of give you a little boost on your theory there, Brian. If you look at a lot of the old time paintings, the symbols that were considered holy, they didn't show an aura or a light around their heart. They always showed them illuminating around their head.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that'll give you some credence to the energy thing.
Well, all of this is primarily theory and hypothesis, but there's some things that just makes more sense than others.
Oh, that's weird. Hang on.
I mean, some of the vivid dreams that I have had made no sense, but they were like I was there, you know. But I mean, it made no sense to me.
The thing is, Roger, how many of these nightmares are actually an influence from a negative energy?
That's a good possibility. Well,
Yeah, a psychiatrist would say that
I had with a nightmare. It wasn't scary. It just didn't make sense.
well,
Yeah.
it could be any number of explanations.
Correct. Yep,
Yeah.
You're right. That's
Any
why
number.
we need to stay open-minded about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still looking for the answers to a couple of them.
Yeah. All right. So exploring conscious energy, book number 2. You said that was basically about just how to kind of like a how-to guide for other investigators.
Yeah, it's a how-to because we conduct paranormal classes during the course of the year. Usually, there's people that show up that either have a haunting in their house, just kind of want to get that. I don't want to have them over, but I kind of want to see what they're all about. You know, they're kind of checking us out more than anything. But then there's also people there that want to start up paranormal investigation. And I got to thinking, you know what? I could write a book on this, and I did. And the first part of the book, the first chapter, is why do you want to be one? Because you guys both know as well as I do. There are those of us investigators that are actually looking for answers, that want to help people, and then there's those of us who are just thrill seekers. And the thrill seekers, from time to time can make it. There's a place that used to let people investigate here in my area, and that got shut down because a couple of thrill seekers ruined it for everybody else. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's sure it's happened in your area too.
The mansion that got burned down.
Well, they're on TV.
Yeah.
Got some thrill seekers on TV.
Thrill seekers
I'm going to take a moment.
Claiming to be ghost hunters.
Ladies' room. Be right back.
All right.
Go ahead.
Mary was saying, hold on, let me find this again. Aren't dreams another dimension too?
I think it's our window, Roger. I think it's our window into that dimension. It can be. It's sometimes not as clear. Don't you agree?
Well, yeah. And you could, I think, Actually, if there was a time that you were to be able to enter that veil from this side, it would be during that
REM sleep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, I mean, physically, you're not just going to say, well, there's the veil, I'm going to walk through there, because you're not.
Right.
But when you enter that REM sleep and that subconscious, you know, that's a whole different ball game. You see things there you don't see in your wakeful time.
Well, Roger, you could take it a step further and say that REM sleep might be as close to death as we get while we're still
Thank you.
alive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's maybe there's a reason why we are required to sleep. Maybe it's so it'll kind of tone down the fear of death. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe when we die, it's no different than just going to sleep and you're right in that REM stage, and then of course you're on the other side all of a sudden, bang.
Yeah.
So.
You know, and also during that time, and of course, people claim to do this, and I'm sure people do the out of body thing. But during that time, you could also do that, and you would not realize that you did.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm pretty sure I've done that quite frequently.
Well, the thing is, if you put yourself in the entity's position, all of a sudden I've made a video about this. All of a sudden you realize you can't be seen anymore. You can't be heard anymore. You're trying to, you might have passed away and find yourself standing next to your brother or sister or a loved one, and they can't hear or see. What would be their state of mind at that point? You'd be freaking out.
Okay.
Well, yeah. And when you think about this, what better time to cross through that veil than when you're in a subconscious out of body experience, because you're not in a physical body.
Correct.
You know, I mean, it seemed like it would be pretty easy to slip through there, just like you were any other spirit.
Well, a lot of people that have had near-death experiences claim that that's the way it is. It's all of a sudden you're slipped, you're there. It's not as bad as everybody makes it sound to be. I think most people's fear of death is the fear of the unknown, not so much the pain or whatever else. You know, in this day and age with hospice and whatnot, you know, if you can be without the pain, some people have no problem just sliding right in there.
Yeah.
Pain is a big deal. A lot of people have, like I almost drowned. I wouldn't call it an NDE, but it was close enough. I got pulled out by a riptide, and I was so tired that I just rolled over onto my back, and I said, well, this is it. I'm fixing to be fish food, you know, and I just let go. Next thing I know, I'm washing up on shore.
There you go.
So I got really, really lucky, but it is the pain. Like, I think with a lot of people, I don't want to drown. I don't want to burn to death. I can't think of anything more excruciating.
Well, there's a reason, you guys, why our body shuts down, why we have shock.
Right.
I mean, it's instant painkiller. It
is. You're right.
It is. So.
I had to tinkle, and I heard you all talking about doorways, and I was back there thinking, I gotta hurry up because I got so much to say on this. When you start talking dimensions, that's my area, so I had to run back out here real quick. Yeah, I'm really big on dimensions and doorways and frequency and vibrations.
And basically what I was saying is that during REM sleep, when you're in your subconscious mind, and if you have an out-of-body experience, you're not in a physical body.
Okay.
So it's easy to cross through that veil and be on the other side, because you're actually in a spirit form.
You are what you are.
Yeah.
You are existing in your energy at that moment. That's why I said, you know, this closest thing to death as you can while still living and breathing on this earth.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. You know, considering
And,
the veil is strictly an entrance into another area. You know, there's like string theory. I'm real big on string theory, and that's the belief that there are an infinite amount of dimensions. They're trying to put a number on how many there are, but you know, whatever.
Why
But
bother, Michelle? I mean,
yeah,
you're going where you're going.
right. So, I mean, but if, yeah, either up or down. I don't know. I don't think we can go in reverse. If this is the third dimension, and say there's a reason that we call this the third dimension, maybe it is because we're time bound. Maybe that is what stops us from ascending into the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, you know, and onwards. You know, of course, we're still trying to figure that out, but that's kind of where I've gone off to, into the MUFON area and the ET and the dimensions and the all that stuff. But I still find all this.
I think it's all connected, though, sis.
I do too. I do too. And oh, I had a blow moment.
Sorry.
I know. I hate this. I'm getting. There was a moral to that story, but when I think of it, I'll get back to it. Let's see. Gone off the dimensions, REM sleep. Oh, and also, it's not necessarily. Well, yeah, it would be. It's just called something else. Astral. You know, astral traveling.
yeah, astral projection.
Yeah. You know, maybe we don't even leave this realm. Maybe, you know, we just
Okay, let me help you out here. I know exactly where you're going.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's beyond the realm of possibility. We have to remember we are part of Mother Earth. I mean, we're just a skin and bone right now. You know, how well's the term? We're energy hauling around a meat wagon or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
heavier than the others.
I think where Michelle's kind of going with is we're just recycled. I mean, a lot of people have past life experiences. And all of a sudden, bam, they're recalling something, the deja vus and all this and that. And you're sitting there and you're going, okay, why would I think that? Or why am I this way? And maybe this personality that we're hauling around with all of our life experiences and this and that just gets, you know, we dump the meat wagon, we move on. And since we're in this electromagnetic field in Earth, it just gets reconstituted and put somewhere else. We might become a fly, a tree. You know,
well, there's a thing in Buddhism. There is a thing in Buddhism that says we start out as the meager and work our way up with every reincarnation. Like we could have started out as an amoeba or a cockroach, and we literally through karma have to work our way up.
Well, life does evolve. I mean, look how far we are from just 200 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Think about it.
To me, the whale would be the most intelligent species on the planet. There was a question in chat just a second ago, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, because I do forget. UPR, and it stuck out to me because my team and I had a thought about this several years ago. He or she, I'm not sure, male or female, wanted to know what if we created our own EVPs. Do you think that we can sometimes psychically project that out?
I can guarantee you, Sweet Pea, that EVP at the Pony Express station, none of us were thinking, who is Mr. Luck? As a matter of fact, we were in a conversation with the museum curator, and like I said, I was on my way to the bathroom.
Yeah, no, that's just one. That's just one. But like,
well, I'm just saying, you know, yeah, I understand. You could say you could put some validity to that.
Or maybe they're reading what you want them to say. Thought.
I don't know.
You don't think they could read our minds or tap into us somehow?
No.
No?
You mean use our voice box?
No. Well, no.
Use our voice box.
Well, my team and I, we kind of feel like because they're such strong empaths, and you know, like I've got a little bit of I've got one or two clairs. Like I can smell things that nobody else can smell,
Right.
and things like that. You know, nothing real big, nothing major, but we've often wondered if maybe we weren't so strong together that we were able to maybe project it. You know, we never proved or disproved.
I don't know about that, Michelle. That's because
It's a tough one.
when I ask questions, I am asking specific questions. I've got a certain way. Police officers have helped me as far as interrogation. So I primarily play the good cop. I don't like provoking anyway, but I primarily play the good cop. So I try to keep things in my mind set on the certain questions and thinking about the next question, just making sure I leave my gaps in between for the answers.
Right.
So as far as if it was me projecting, I don't think it could possibly be me. I know for sure.
Okay, cool. I was just wondering because I've been wanting to ask that question for a long time, and that person, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
That is actually a very good question.
UPR, brought it up. There was something else. Oh yeah, we make up our own need. Oh, as far as like your book, your second book, I thought this was interesting, and I wanted to bring it up to you. I think I know how you're going to answer, but I just want where to go. I take so many notes during these things. Let's see. The exploring conscious energy. So when you're teaching, what we'll just call them newbies, for lack of a better word. When you're teaching the newbies, do you believe that, like with all the shows on TV, do you believe that somebody could literally just watch these people and then all of a sudden buy themselves $3,000 worth of equipment and be able to go out there and do this stuff? Or do you believe that it has to be a process?
It has to be a process. And I think I've explained that in the book. Don't go crazy. I mean, if you're independently wealthy and you can afford all that stuff, you're going to overwhelm yourself. You're going to go, trust me, I bought equipment that took me like a week to get it to work where I understood it. You know, not all of this stuff comes with instructions.
Right.
So, yes, it's a process, and you should start with the most elementary stuff, an IR camera, a voice recorder, an IR thermometer is fine if you want to. You're checking for cold spots or things. But
EMF meter.
Right. But the first thing in the book is that I teach them how to do a very elementary home inspection, checking your pipes, see if anything's rattling, turn on dishwashers, turn on washing machines, make sure that water pipes aren't rattling, making it sound like little kids running around upstairs. There's all sorts of things. Why do I feel weird in this room? I don't know if I ever told you this, Michelle. We had one lady, her husband rewired his basement, right? She goes, it was like 8 months later, she goes, I can't stand my basement. It sucks. It goes, whatever it is, it just leeches on me the minute I get down there. And she goes, and as soon as I get to the washing machine, this thing is like trying to crawl inside of me. And I go, okay. So we went down there, and I got to tell you, every hair on my arm went up. And I'm going, okay, this is really weird. So got the EMF floating around. I'm getting readings like 29, 30. You're right in the middle of a room. So I look up and I see these wires. And the guy wired his house. He bought new wire. It was an older house. He wired with unshielded wiring. By the time I got to her washing machine, she was standing there loading her washer. It was 125 milligauss. Yeah. So I said, well, I'll tell you one thing. You might want to have your husband or actually a professional electrician come in and, rewire this place. I took her downstairs.
I wonder if she didn't get physically ill. I mean, like.
No kidding. I mean, it affected me the minute I got to the bottom stair. And I told her, I go, you get rid of that wiring, and I literally took both of them downstairs and let them take the meter in their own hand, and I pointed it out, and they both agreed, and I guess they had it done like 2 or 3 weeks later, and they didn't have any more trouble. So
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying.
Very good.
So, but yeah, as far as the book goes, yes, they need to. I tried to do it in a step-by-step process, if that's what you mean, Michelle.
That's good. Really, it is. You know, like anytime we took somebody new on our team, we tried to go step by step, but you know, they just want to jump right in, and you know, there was so many times we'd investigate and just not get squat. And that's how you can tell. Paranormal field goes like this, whoop, and then it goes poof.
Right.
And then the people who are in it for the long haul for all the right reasons stay right about here. And then it goes up. I've seen this over 20 years, you know, popular, not popular, you know, and us.
Well, I personally don't care if it's popular or not. I do it for
me either. We were doing it when it wasn't cool, but it's just, you know, they like you said, what'd you say earlier? The adrenaline, they want the adrenaline rush off of it or something.
Yeah, they're thrill seekers. They're
exactly, Roger. Exactly.
Yeah.
They're fame seekers, one or the other. They're kind of.
You know what they're good for? Like Michelle just said, when their interest drops, they're good for buying the equipment at maybe a third of the price you have to pay for it new.
It goes on
Yeah. Yep.
Once they lose interest, they make a killing on equipment.
I'll tell you, them FLIR cameras never come up.
Right.
No.
They did. Oh my Lord.
Man, I'd love to have one of those.
We did one paranormal class. We made enough money to buy the thermal camera. I went, well, they're all that. There's $1,500 gone.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's the one piece of equipment we don't use, but we've kind of, like I said, moved on. I'm on to aliens and stuff.
Michelle, I was going to tell you and Rogers. Let's go back to the equipment. We are digging that Xbox 360 camera that puts the stick figure, and they're cheap. You can get them for like $20 on eBay, and you hook them up to your computer and you run the program. Oh my Lord! My best one.
It was Xbox that made them. Oh my
God!
But
it's got. You know what I'm talking about? It puts this little static, or the little stick figure.
And it looks like a little climbing up you.
Yes. My favorite case. This guy, he was living with a girl, and her husband had passed away, so she moved in for a while. She brought some Christmas stuff over that was from her dead husband. She left the guy, but left the box behind in his basement. And he's having all this stuff going on in his house. So we put the Xbox, and right alongside, we call it the big show, where it's the thermal camera right next to the Xbox. So we can pick up if there's a cold spot to correlate with the stick figure or whatever motion it's picking up. And this stick figure starts showing up right over the top of the box with the Christmas stuff in it. So we just told the guy, have her come back and get her dead husband's stuff, and your stuff will stop. And it sure did. It was amazing. Wow. Yeah, so try out the Xbox. It's a cheap way of detection.
So do you have to have the Xbox, or?
Well, it's just the camera, you know, that they use for the gaming nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's already got infrared. It's already got infrared.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That might stir me back into. All right, I'm gonna scroll here in chat and see if we got any questions. I've been trying to peek in and out. Let's see.
I have a Tascam D5 that I still can't figure out. I have a Tascam D5, Mary.
Okay. Looks like Charles says, on the topic EVPs, what are your thoughts on the ghost and spirit boxes? What do you think about like the SB7? They got an SB11 now.
It doesn't mean that I don't believe. It's just that I like to use just a voice recorder, and that's for the simple fact that I don't want anything picking up a radio signal of any kind, AM, FM, ham operator, whatever. I want to be I want concrete proof, as much as concrete as I can get it. And you know damn well there's not going to be a radio signal coming in your voice recorder.
Well,
So,
yeah, right. Well, you could use like white noise off of a TV, I would think. Maybe I'm trying to scan and ask this at the same time. I saw wasn't that a SB11, Roger, that Aaron had?
Yeah.
Okay, now that scanned so fast.
It also puts out a lot of EMF too.
Well, yeah, I remember that. It did do that. But
what's the thing Nick's using on lockdown now? That bigger box.
I haven't watched it. I'm not sure. Do you know, Roger?
Roger, have you seen it?
No.
He's got some new. It's homemade. Obviously, you can tell it's homemade.
I haven't got a clue.
Raised and trained. Yeah, I don't either. All right. Alrighty, I'm scrolling through chat. It looks like mostly conversation amongst themselves. I'm not seeing aren't dreams, other dimension. Okay, that's the one Roger asked. Okay. All right. Well, oh, here's in quantum mechanics, there are 4 dimensions. 3 of space, 1 in time, string theory 11. Yeah, I've heard that too, that there are 11, 10 of space, 1 in time. Yeah, that's deep stuff. All right. Where else you want to go, Brian? You want to talk about the upcoming classes or anything you're doing? Or let's see, what time is it? Oh, it's only 9:30. We got plenty of time. Let's do this. What all you want to talk about?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh,
let's promote you, and let's just get in. Let's get into something controversial.
Well, I was kind of wondering about what would your how did I say this, most exciting case that you've worked? What would be the one that stood out above all the rest of them?
Mine, my childhood home. There's nothing like getting validation, Roger.
Oh,
I mean, and that was personal validation.
Right.
I mean, that's my all-time favorite case. I mean, to be quite honest, I didn't think we'd ever get anything out of there when we investigated. I thought, you know, I was 9, 10 years old at the time. I literally tried to explain everything that happened to me before I even went in there. And I literally tried to debunk everything while I was in the house, and I couldn't. So, I mean, it's got to be my favorite because it was personal validation.
it would be for me. I'd love to go back to some of my old homes.
I'd love to go back to the house I lived in whenever I saw the lady next door. That would be awesome.
Well, why don't you go back, Roger?
Well, actually, people lived there, and they wouldn't want somebody coming there snooping around.
Well, I lucked out. I had an elementary school mate that happened to live there that day. You know.
Actually, during the same time after it was my youngest sister had a twin, and she died. She was 4 years old, and for about 2 weeks straight, I heard her cry every night in that house.
Oh.
And I didn't mention to anybody because I didn't figure they'd believe me.
Oh, that's sad.
When I told them about seeing the spirit, they told me I didn't see it. I imagined the whole thing.
Yeah. Some parents are that way. Fortunately for me and John, Mom had enough experiences that we were able to have an open discussion about it. And, you know, she knew what we were going through. So,
Yeah.
that's a big thing for children.
Yeah.
And parents, if the child is seeing things and explaining things, you know, whenever we do a case where we have a child, I take what that child says as that's what happened, and then I'll try and debunk it, and then if I can't, then I'll address it. But, you know, there's a lot more to paranormal investigation, especially when you're doing with residential clients, because you have to be a counselor through this as well. They're looking to you for answers. They're looking to you as the, I guess, the most possible authority on the subject, since there really isn't one. I mean, I'm not I'm not a life expert.
Now, I'm saying this, and here's my little quotation.
Okay.
Uh, in a way, sometimes they look at you as their savior
Sometimes.
when they're dealing with something like that's really terrifying like that. They call
Well,
you
and they
in
think they're
there.
going crazy. They literally think they're going crazy. So, you
Yeah.
know,
So there's some people that are relieved that you got an EVP in their house. They're going,
Yeah.
good, I'm not nuts.
yeah.
And I'm doing this because I'm not meaning like you're God or Jesus, but to them, you're coming in there to save them. You're their savior. You know, you're the one that's going to make everything okay.
Yeah. Well, you know what most of it is? It just goes back to the counseling thing, Roger. You are an ear that is listening, and you are an open mind that is willing to accept what
Right.
they're telling you. That is just as important as just doing the investigation.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Now, Michelle,
UPR.
now Roger's brought up the Jesus and the God thing. Michelle wanted something controversial, and this is something that
Oh.
bothered me from day one.
All
I have
right.
tried, literally tried, to find a pastor, priest, father, anybody that will help me and the team when somebody wants a blessing on their home and on them.
Mhm.
I have gone to, I stopped counting after a couple dozen. They all either don't want to be involved in it, think it's a joke, this and that. And my question for them, Michelle, is how can you, in your right mind, be preaching on Sunday about an afterlife, about spirit, about Jesus Christ's resurrection into a paranormal form, into an entity form? You're teaching that story over and over and over. We celebrate it every Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
The ultimate paranormal event. Jesus Christ, if they were telling the story exactly as it happened, and these were claims, why don't these men and women of the cloth, and I have talked to women, pastors and preachers and such, why don't you want to be involved? Why wouldn't you want to be involved? And you know what some of their excuses are? It's not human. Really.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
tell the lady that that had her father apologize to her on a voice recorder. You go tell her that that's a demon or whatever you want to call it.
And even if it was, would it not be their job as a priest or what have you to help these people get rid of this demon or whatever?
Or
Actually,
at least
the
try to
Bible.
counsel the entity. Counsel the entity. That's what they could be going in and doing. Am I wrong, Michelle?
Well, it does say in the Bible, the one good thing about growing up in a Jehovah's Witness family was I know the Bible inside and out. Can I quote chapter and verse? Not really, but I do know if there's something in there. They don't want to get involved. Is it to mess with the paranormal for a person who it would be a minister or whatever? It's taught to them that is basically doing the devil's work. So I'm surprised they just haven't come out and said that instead of, I don't want to be involved.
So when a priest does an exorcism, is he doing the devil's work?
Well, they can't, only a Catholic priest can do an exorcism, and then the church has to be in on it.
So what makes the Catholic Church any better than the rest of them?
Yeah. Bingo. Bam.
You know, but I don't hear or see any, well, you'll see Baptists, especially Southern Baptist, boom, you're healed. I guess that could be considered an exorcism.
Yeah.
You know, but as far as the title exorcism, that's strictly Roman Catholic.
Yep.
And it has to be ordained, in other word. But it does. I don't know what chapter verse. I could look it up, but it specifically says that to even talk to a psychic or to do any of that. It's basically which.
Well, yeah, I understand about saying, you know, if you're talking to psychics or seers or whatever, because yeah, that is in the Bible.
Yeah. But you know, yeah, they should be doing their job, and you know, like I said, Christianity is only a couple thousand years old, so that's a touchy subject.
Well, let's just take it one step further, and I'm sure I'm going to be stepping on toes right now. But all religion, and I mean every one of them, was a concept of a human being and the way they perceive things. And so we're gone with it. Some of these religions, 5,000, 10,000 years of people that really didn't understand what we are just now touching the surface of, which is frequency, conscious energy, influence. And for them to turn their back, not only on the client, which they are doing, on the living, they're also turning their back on a spirit. And if they wanted to even take it a step further, could they be turning their back on what they believe? Am I wrong?
I get it 100%. It is not their job to judge.
What I'm saying is, how can they sit there and tell you, look, you know, you're coming to me for help because you think there's an evil entity or whatever in your house that's attacking you or whatever. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're on your own. I can't help you because I'm not a Catholic.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like an organization, and you got to be part of the club. I mean, really?
Yeah.
Is that what, you know? They believe in what Jesus said. Why don't they follow his teachings? You don't turn your back on another human being. Period.
Well, Jesus wasn't a Christian.
Exactly.
Buddha wasn't Buddhist. I mean,
Muhammad wasn't a Muslim. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they all taught love, acceptance. That was it.
Yep. Love and acceptance. Yep. I still, you know, and everybody that knows me knows how I feel about this. To me, it's all about power, greed, and honestly, that's all religion is to me. You know,
yeah, I agree with you. I can agree with you 100%, Michelle. It's like it's a club. It's an organization.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
You know, I have this question, and it has to do with religion. And like Brian said, I'm probably going to step on some toes here. But in the beginning, everybody was pagan. They created rituals for childbirth. They created rituals for the crops to grow, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Somewhere along the line, somebody decided, well, I'm going to start this new thing and then get everybody to follow me.
Constantine.
Okay?
Yeah, she's right.
You know, I mean, so really, it's all somebody made up their way they wanted things to be, and so they started preaching this to everybody, and so many people would follow them. You know, and then somebody else would get sick of their stuff, so they start their own thing and get everybody to follow them, and it went on and on and on and on and on.
You're talking about it's all one tree, but we've got 30 branches. Like
we got about 600 freaking branches.
Pentecostal, you've got this.
Get down to it, you know.
Yeah.
You could take it a step further and say beliefs are as individual as the individual.
Exactly.
And that's why I go back to intent when I'm doing a house blessing. You need to believe, you, sir, need to believe that this is going to work, because it's actually your energy that's going to get rid of this thing. Not something else, not this water I'm putting over here, or this white sage, this little bush I'm burning over here, or, you know, whatever else.
Yeah.
It's you. It all comes from you.
Yep. And
Not trying to walk on anybody's religious beliefs here. But when you go to church and you pray, if you're just saying the words, you could be home dusting the living room.
Exactly.
I mean, I have my own religious beliefs, and yes, it's Christian, and I pray every day. And when I pray, it's with intent.
Right.
I don't need to go to church. I don't need to join the club. Jesus didn't start a club. Muhammad didn't start a club. They didn't build all these big, massive structures.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember right, most of them, Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, they all pretty much just kind of walked around and just.
They were lonely. They were very lonely.
Correct.
Yeah. From what
They
I've
had people that didn't like them, and they had people that loved them.
Right.
So, so there you go. It's us human beings, the mob mentality,
Right.
which dirties it, which makes it. We have taken their teachings and pretty much destroyed them.
Yeah.
We try to be good people, but we don't. We're not. None of us are perfect.
It's to where you don't even really want to watch the news.
Boy, you hit that on the head.
Yeah. Here's something interesting.
I don't watch the news.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You don't want to watch it either?
I don't watch the news. I don't.
Yeah. This made me think of a question. They're talking about seeing an apparition, I believe, of a Native American, which makes me think of spirit guides. I was a practicing pagan for a very long time. Most people know that. I'm not anymore. I would consider myself more of a spiritualist. But I was really into meditation and really into listening to, I guess, a sort of apparition that I called my spirit guides. And they weren't always human. Sometimes they were an animal. How do you feel? Do you think that's possible, Brian?
I think that we all have, and without sounding ready for the insane asylum,
right?
I think we all know when that voice comes into our head which one is the right one.
Yeah.
And I'm getting more in tune with it on a daily basis. The one that has your best interests at heart, when that is your spirit guide. They choose you choose to accept their help. You can choose to ignore it. Therefore, we go back to free will, and that's what they all say about God, is that God gives us free will for a reason. Now, whatever we call it, Michelle maybe has a wolf or whatever in her beliefs, which when her wolf comes to her, whatnot, it's still conscious energy, and it's got your best interests at heart, and it's up to you to listen to it.
Right. That's like,
am I wrong on that,
literally thought it was an entity, but now I think it's, like you said, conscious. See, I've shifted, I've evolved. It's like everything I've gone through, it's been for a purpose, almost to bring me where I am today, and to where you are today, and where Roger is today, and everybody in chat. We've all gone through, to bring us where we are today in order to evolve. I think this very thing of what we're doing will eventually get us to where, as a species, we can evolve into those, what we were supposed to be 2,000 years ago, when all these people were wandering around talking about love and light.
Right.
What I thought were literal beings were probably just my own self-projected answers.
I believe.
You know what, Michelle? I think since we all like to slap, how visual human beings are. Mm-hmm. So we all slap our own little individual visual aspect of what that helpful energy is. I slap Dad's face on mine. Okay.
Good answer. Yeah.
We go back to personal belief.
So. Yeah.
We are, as a race of beings, awakening, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. The Great Awakening. There's a lot of people that believe that was what the Mayans was all about.
Yeah.
Some more than others. Some haven't yet, but
Oh, there's a lot of sheep out
it's going on.
there.
You know, we are awakening, and we are starting to realize that we're a lot more than what meets the eye.
Yeah, I really do feel sorry for those that really think that this is it. And once this meat wagon
Yeah,
stops working, you're done. That's it. You're worm food. And it's sad. I feel sorry for those people. But they're in for the shock of their life.
Yeah, that kind of brings me back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier. Like you've got say, let's just to put a number on it, you've got 100 years to where pretty much, except for the Native Americans, you had all the, the Pilgrims coming over, and and they were all a religious people. So what if they spent their whole life believing that when they died, they lived a good life, they did everything they were supposed to do, and they were supposed to go to heaven, and they didn't. Or they were bad all their life and thought they were going to go to hell, so they think this is hell. I knew where I was going with that. It'd make for an angry spirit either way.
Okay, let's put it this way. We all know what good and bad is. We all know what's better for us and what's not good for us.
Mm-hmm.
We all know how to treat others properly, and we all know how to be vengeful if we want to be. Okay, so we take that theory, we take it to the afterlife. Again, we go back with if you're an asshole in life, you're an asshole in death. But what if we all end up same place? When somebody is, and we can contest to this in life. Bad things happen to bad people. Eventually, karma catches up. It don't matter, but usually, good people have good things happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
When they do things right, when they treat others well, good things happen.
goes back to that.
So you could technically say that if you train, and this is one thing I really want to hit on here, when you train your conscious energy to be of a good nature, more than likely you will have that on the other side. Some could say that is heaven. Whereas opposed to a bad entity who wants to be a jerk on the other side, more than likely there's going to be others just like him or her on that other side that can make life hell.
Yeah.
We make our own heaven and hell is where I'm going. Am I wrong, Michelle? Am I
Exactly like I said.
I believe you 100% today. But I feel sorry for the people 100 years ago who had really no choice but to believe a certain way and could not really have a choice in where they ended up. I've trained my mind to picture energy when I go. Hopefully I'll remember to do that. And because I have every intention of ascending, I'm not coming back if I can help it. But a lot of people that haven't really studied this stuff don't know to do that. So it still goes back to why are they stuck here? Why hasn't the energy moved on? Surely this realm in this time and space isn't all there is. And why are they here?
Well, maybe, Michelle, moving on is when your energy gets put back into the living existence.
Possibly.
Thought about that?
Possibly. I just couldn't see. Oh, yeah. I'm very much going to reincarnate. Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the
Very
moving
much.
on.
Maybe it is.
I hate to
Maybe
be
it
a
is.
party pooper, but our time is about up.
No,
And
it is.
Brian, if you would like, give all our listeners there where they can go and find your books.
Oh, they're all on Amazon.com. My Facebook page is under Brian Kent. And it's got my picture there, and it's got all my books on on the top of the page. So, but Amazon.com's got the 4 that I've got out now, and number 5 will be out hopefully next month. So, and then if anybody would like the team to help them in our area, we'll go 150 miles out of our way to help. They can get a hold of us at Paracon, Paracon, investigations.com, and they can get a hold of us there. Or if they want to reach me personally, they can get a hold of me at paraconbk@gmail.com.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, this has been really interesting, you guys. I love it. And
Yeah,
I knew
me
it would be.
Real quick. For those who don't know, Mid-South, I've been trying to throw out the guests who are coming. There's a whole bunch more I haven't been keeping up, but Mid-South is definitely going to be in Louisville, Kentucky. The ones that live on this side, try to come. It's going to be a big deal. John Zapp, I mean, there's going to be like a whole bunch of paracelebs there. And you need to get your butt up here too, Roger. So bring your team.
You just used that word that I cannot stand.
Would, but
Paracelebs.
oh, well.
They ain't a bit better than I am.
One of these
that's
days,
true.
Michelle, we're going to get Paracon to come out to one of your little, we're calling it one of your Paracons. How's that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
All righty. Well, yeah, we got to have you back, Brian, because that flew by.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. We touched the tip of the iceberg.
Like I told you, I could talk for hours.
We could too.
We will definitely have to do this. And I don't know if you, Michelle, have anybody, but I do have a guy that wants to come on the 5th, and I've got to get his information up, and I'll let everybody know about that here shortly. I've been kind of busy, so I've been falling behind. Also, I've been sick in the hospital too, but anyway. So on the 5th, we will have, right now we're going to call it our secret guest because you don't know yet. But I'll get all that up here in a couple of days, and we'll know about all that. Brian, thank you so much for coming on with us, man. It's been awesome.
It was my pleasure.
We will get you the link as soon as it gets uploaded. And we also like to do roundtables from time to time. You want to come back for one of them?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. All right.
Everybody in the chat room, thank you. There's a lot of new people that came in tonight that I haven't seen before. Thanks for coming. We do this every other Sunday. Please come back and join us again. It's been an awesome night, and we're right on the money. How about that? But we'll catch everybody on the 5th. And
On the 5th.
As I like to say, stay twisted.
Stay twisted. Peace out,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks.